All right. A very warm welcome, everyone. On behalf of Pakhuis de Zwijger, Oxfam, Novib, SOMO, Force People's Program, and Peru Equidad for setting up this evening together. And welcome to the event From Peru to the Netherlands, Corporate Social Responsibility for Oil Pollution. And as the event title says, today we're going to zoom in on the way that oil companies have been damaging in Peru. Specifically, today we're going to look at Plus Petrol. And I don't know if everyone has followed the news, but we had a positive verdict on the negative consequences for the community. And this is something, yes, you can applaud for that result. Especially since it has taken more than 5 years to come to that conclusion, because it was in 2020 that they filed the complaint at the national contact point. And today we will zoom in, what we can do with this verdict. It's not a legally binding verdict, but it is something we can work further on, and that we will reflect on together with NGOs on it, and also with Dutch politicians to see what kind of follow-ups we can do and how we can strengthen that corporate social, that the companies are held responsible. But first, we have very special guests as well that I will introduce later, who came from the front lines from Peru, who filed the complaint together with these NGOs. And they are here physically present, and they will also share firsthand their story of their struggle to protect their territories and demand reparatory justice also to clean the damage that has been done. So maybe some practical remarks that I had to give as well. There's a photographer here, and if you don't want to be on pictures, for instance, later during the Q&A, please raise your hand now so that the photographer can see who to skip. And if you're fine with being photographer, then all right, everyone is fine being on the picture. That's nice. And also be aware that this event is recorded. So later in the last part of the program, when there's room for Q&A, know that you are being recorded. So without further ado, I'm going to start with a video so that we all get familiar with the context of this case for those for who it's new. So if we can start the video.
Cómo está nuestra tierra, cómo está nuestro bosque, cómo han dejado la empresa. Así estamos, ve, así vivimos.
Ahí está el hidrocarburos.
Este ha sido un vertimiento. A este lugar le cavaron y lo que sacaban de los pozos le pusieron acá. Y este es como un colchón de hidrocarburo que está almacenado acá. Y tiene una expansión por lo menos de 3 kilómetros cuadrados, ¿no? Y es un lugar de contaminación muy grande que afecta mucho a nuestros animales, a los peces, a los árboles, a nuestra propia vida.
Este grupo de monitores ambientales que tenemos directamente de las comunidades, ellos es que de verdaderamente han empezado a entrar a todos los sitios del lote a sacar informaciones. Ahí es que sabemos si de verdaderamente la empresa está trabajando responsablemente. Al final, cuando nos dan la información, nuestros monitores, no era así. Estaban ocultando todo el impacto que causaba la empresa, hasta el Estado les ocultaba de nosotros.
Este lugar ha sido encontrado en el 2012, cuando nosotros estábamos patrullando como monitores. Este era una cocha bien llena de hidrocarburos.
Están remediando la empresa, Corpesa, están tapando esta cocha con máquinas pesadas.
Era todo el agua, pero lo que ha hecho la empresa es desmontar toda esa parte de la parte alta, traer tierra y tapar. Solo donde estaba ocurriendo una fuga pequeña, lo parchan. Porque lo correcto sería que cambiaran todo el tubo. Pues este parche no es tan seguro. Cualquier rato puede colapsar y va a haber un derrame en este lugar.
Esta agua contiene agua de producción, o que tiene harto contaminante como el plomo, cadmio, el bario, el arsénico. Quedo muy apenado, ¿no? Y muy triste, porque no, al ver que no, este lugar de este pozo está en medio de nuestro territorio y que está contaminando, ¿no?, a muchos animales.
Nuestros hermanos están muriendo por la contaminación ambiental que existe acá. Nos dijeron claramente que no había tratamiento y de que la única forma de poder controlar esto era de que no comamos los peces, no bebamos el agua de la zona, los peces de la zona. Pero la pregunta es, si no vamos a comer los peces ni los animales de la zona, ¿qué vamos a comer?
Mi hermano se ha muerto así pues, botando así sangre, vomitando, botaba por su ano también igual manera. Así parece gelatina, así botaba de su boca también igual manera. Uno, mi hijo también igual manera se ha muerto. Por eso de ahí ya nosotros empezamos a analizar esas cosas.
Mercurio, plomo, arsénico y otros metales más. Aquí están muriendo con la contaminación. Hasta así niñitos han salido contaminados. Y el Estado no se preocupa de nosotros.
Miramos acá, los hermanos que están sentados son los afectados por metales pesados. Y ahora, sacaron la muestra, pero el resultado no se dio al instante. El resultado se dio más de 2 años.
Yo ahorita, señorita, me siento mal. Estoy ahorita sufriendo dolores de cabeza, dolores de hueso. Estoy ahorita al corazón. Como dicen acá, yo estoy bien contaminada ahorita.
Sentimos esa impotencia a luchar contra el Estado, porque no somos hartos.
No. A ver, ¿quiénes están de acuerdo que sea ahorita?
Ahora, cuando nosotros tomamos nuestras lanzas, hacemos así, los indios son de mal vivir.
Mis hermanos no están por gusto levantándose, por algo es que se levantan, sacan la lanza y empiezan a gritar, porque están desesperados, pues, la gente para que atiendan.
Nosotros estamos queriendo denunciar a la Plus. ¿Por qué no se ha dejado así? ¿Por qué no ha dejado limpio así como era antes? ¿Por qué no ha dejado cambiando la tubería?
Que ellos son criminales. ¿Sabes por qué? Porque nosotros se han desgraciado nuestra vida, a nuestros hijos, nuestros animales, no tenemos que comer.
Tengo familias, hermanos, mi madre, que están contaminados con la metal pesada en sus cuerpos, y yo de repente no me quise sacar mi examen, porque prefiero morir sin saber que estoy contaminado con plomo, con mercurio, con cal, con un montón de cosas en mi cuerpo. No quiero saber. Yo voy a luchar hasta el día que deje de respirar, voy a luchar por mi familia, por mi territorio y por todos, y por toda mi familia que viene.
Lo que buscamos es que haga la justicia, ¿no? Necesitamos que hagan la justicia, que le hagan sentar a la empresa que asume su responsabilidad.
Nyukasi kwangkaga manakaruta ringa choya kaila itami shamunga pai moyoro yata ni shaga yana moyoro yaga ya pundamaga shinkishina pokosha.
Yes, I hope this video shows you also, not only mentally, but also in your hearts, why this is an important struggle to fight for. And cleaning. So, as promised, we have people from the territories that we've just seen in the video, and also some of them speaking. So please give them a warm applause as a form of encouragement for them to share their story today. So while they take their seat, I'm going to introduce them. They are Aurelio Chino Dahua. He's a Quechua leader of the Indigenous Federation of Fedicap. You can sit here. And that's a Quechua Indigenous Federation of the Pastaza River, whose 22 communities are located along the river in Loreto, Peru. Please give a warm welcome to Chino. Next, we have Aurelio Pinola Haulinga. He's an Achua leader of the Indigenous Federation of Feconacor, Federation of the Native Communities of the Corrientes River Basin, whose 7 communities are located in the river basin, also in Loreto, Peru. Please give it up for Pinola. And last but not least, we have Robinson Sandy Holinga. He's a Quechua leader of the Indigenous Federation of Opicafpe, an organization of the indigenous Amazon Quechua communities of the Peru-Ecuadorian border, whose 6 communities are located along the Tigre River in Loreto. Also give a warm welcome. Chino, I want to start with you to maybe give us more on the context of the last 15 years. Oh yeah, maybe also for translations, Case will translate my question and later back to English. They will reply in Spanish. So thank you, Case, also for that. If you want, you can also sit in the light that for the people who watch it back know that there's not a voice coming from the air. Thank you, Case, for translating. So the first question is for Chino. To tell how they've been organizing and resisting what has happened the past 15 years.
Sí, Aurelia, si puedes contar algo sobre la lucha de los últimos 15 años, cómo se han organizado, qué ha pasado en la comunidad.
It's already on. He can just speak.
Ya funciona.
Bien, muchas gracias. Buenas noches con todos, entre hombres y mujeres de este país. Hemos venido desde tan lejos, preocupado, para un poco alcanzar a las ideas de todo el video que han visto. No es mentira. Ahora que estamos al frente de ustedes, somos representantes, dirigentes, que venimos directamente de nuestro territorio afectado con estas empresas que estaban trabajando en nuestro territorio.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming and listening to us. We have come from Peru, from the Amazon region of Peru, very far away. This video is still very true. What you just saw in the video is still very true to the day of today.
Entonces, del año 1970, inicia la empresa Oxy hasta el año 2000. En el año 2000, compra al lote la empresa Plus Petrol hasta el año 2015.
So in 1970, the American oil company Oxy came to our territories, started exploiting for oil till 2000, and in the 2000 came the Argentinian Dutch oil company Plus Petrol, and they were there in our area till 2015.
En el año 2015 termina su contrato de la empresa Plus Petrol, luego compra la empresa Pacific. La empresa Pacific cambia su razón social y pone Frontera Energy. Ha estado 2 años, a sus 3 años se largó de ese lote.
So in 2015 came the company Pacific. Then they changed into Frontera Energy, and 3 years later they left.
Entonces la empresa Plus Petrol terminó su contrato sin asumir todos esos daños que ha causado, se ha alargado, sin asumir su responsabilidad. Igual la empresa Frontera Energy. Entonces, desde esos años nosotros empezamos a buscar. Yo llegué el año 2015, la primera vez que llegué a este país.
So Plus Petrol, who stayed 15 years, left a big mess, everything polluted, didn't clean up anything. Their successor, Frontera Energy, they the same. They also left a lot of pollution and then left. And so the first time I was in this country was in 2015, 10 years ago.
No era justo para que ellos dejen así, haciendo todo un crimen de todos los recursos que tenemos en nuestro territorio. De esa manera, empecemos a buscar dónde es la oficina, de dónde es la empresa Plus Petrol. En el año 2015 yo tuve una reunión con muchos académicos en este país, Holanda.
So we think it's a crime what Plus Petrol has done in our country, and so we were looking for who is responsible for this. And so when I came in 2015, I had a meeting with many academic people here in the Netherlands.
En esos años, algunas instituciones no gubernamentales, cuando yo presenté esta problemática, me dijeron, una institución no gubernamental dijo, nosotros hemos hecho el seguimiento, acá tenemos un informe, hemos investigado a esta empresa. Entonces, y no sabíamos dónde es la oficina exactamente para poner una demanda. Decían que estaba en 4 países. 1 es Holanda, 2 era Isla de los Caimanes, Alemania, y así ha sacado sus oficinas para que él no le encuentren.
And so there was an NGO that helped us with identifying the structure of this company, of Plus Petrol. And they told us that the company is based in at least 4 countries. In Germany, the Cayman Islands, the Netherlands, Peru, Argentina. And that's how they hide away from corporate accountability.
Y en el año 2020, nuevamente regresé porque ya sabíamos, aquí nos han apoyado un amigo que era un abogado internacional que viajó a esos países a investigar dónde es la oficina exactamente para presentar la demanda. Luego nos ha informado que era en este país, en Holanda. Tenía la empresa Plus Petrol, tiene una oficina acá. De esa manera es que nosotros regresamos en el año 2020. Regresé al inicio de COVID. Nos hemos ido a sentar en OCDE ahí presentamos la queja ante esta empresa Pluspetrol que tiene una oficina en este país.
And so, with the help of various friends and lawyers, we discovered that Pluspetrol had several offices here in the Netherlands, mailbox offices. And that's why I came back in 2020 and we decided to file a complaint with the national contact point of the OECD.
Ahora, después de 5 años, regresamos, ahorita estamos acá. De 5 años estamos regresando. Gracias a OCDE, que por ese lado, como una institución que es como conciliador con las empresas, ha reconocido que esta empresa es una empresa, no es una empresa recomendable, es una empresa mala, de mal comportamiento, de mal conducta, que sí ha incumplido todos esos daños que ha hecho. Por ese lado, nosotros agradecemos a OCDE.
And so this week, the national contact point of the OECD came with their final statement on the conflict with Pluspetrol. And they concluded that Pluspetrol has behaved very irresponsibly and totally out of line with the OECD guidelines. They didn't do proper consultation with the communities. They polluted the land, didn't clean it up. And they made arrangements with the communities which were disadvantage for the communities.
Cuando llegamos acá nos hemos ido a sentar con Relaciones Exteriores acá en este país. Conversamos frente a frente con ellos. Decían que no tienen casi toda esa capacidad de decirnos a nosotros que sí, te vamos a ayudar con más cosas, porque no hay una norma, no hay una ley dentro de este país y no tenemos este poder de decisión. Ese es lo que nos dijo los señores Relaciones Exteriores de este país.
But the problem with the final statement of the National Contact Point is that it's not binding. And so this week we went to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we asked them, so what are you going to do to make the company implement this verdict, to improve their act, to clean up their act? And then we were very disappointed because the people in the ministry said, unfortunately there is not so much that we can do about it to make them implement the final statement.
Luego tuvimos sus reuniones aquí en la universidad para que también en la universidad los jóvenes y señoritas que están estudiando, que están preparándose, tengan conocimiento de esta problemática o de este daño que ha dejado causando dentro de nuestro territorio.
And so this week we had several meetings with on different universities to meet and discuss with students about this problem.
Luego, hoy día prácticamente ya, 5 de septiembre, tuvimos otra reunión. Queríamos escuchar directamente del Punto Nacional de Contactos, del informe que han hecho ellos, que le felicitamos, han hecho un trabajo bueno. Yo sé que han estudiado bastante para que declaren que es una empresa irresponsable, tiene que asumir su responsabilidad. Eso es para nosotros un avance, para que conozcan. Y además, yo diría, en este país, de pronto no sabían su actitud y que vulnera los derechos, y a ese tipo de empresa, este país, Holanda, lo tiene acá como estaría camuflado acá dentro de este país para que minimice o no pague el impuesto. Ahorita nosotros en nuestro territorio, para que remedien o limpien, no hay presupuesto. no hay presupuesto también. Eso es lo que nos responden dentro de nuestro país.
So today we had a meeting with the national contact point of the OECD, and we told them that we were very happy with their final statement. But at the same time, we find it very bitter to conclude that Plus Petrol, they don't have economic activities in the Netherlands, but they do pay taxes. They don't have people here, but they have several entities here to hide away their financial flows. And in Peru, there is not enough money to clean up all the mess they've created. So this contrast between them paying taxes here and in Peru not having enough money to clean this up, this is our biggest problem.
And maybe one in-between question, and then I want to make room for the other speakers as well. Why did the minister who said we cannot do anything with this verdict or this conclusion, did the minister that they spoke to motivate that, the foreign minister at the time in the conversation? If you can ask that.
La gente del ministerio con quien hablamos el miércoles, si ellos motivaron por qué no podían hacer mucho en este caso. Es la pregunta.
¿De relaciones exteriores?
Sí.
Sí, porque no hay una norma. Recién están construyendo, recién están implementando las normas. Ellos no tienen esa capacidad de decir, o sea, que de presionar a la empresa que no, tienes que asumir esta responsabilidad. Acá te hay esta ley. No hay eso.
So there is no law yet that obliges the companies to behave responsibly.
Okay, so we will get back to that because we have lawmakers also among us. So later in the program, so we make sure to get back to it. Can you ask him to wrap up so we can go to the next speaker? But if he has some final say that he can say so.
¿Quieres terminar para que vamos a...?
Sí.
Yeah.
Sí, bueno, la verdad que les felicito que están acá todos y les pido a cada uno de ustedes para que aquí nos ayuden, nos apoyen a conocer o a presionar al gobierno de este país que nos ayude a hacer justicia, que nos apoye. Estamos viniendo desde nuestro país para buscando justicia, donde nos pueden ayudar a hacer justicia. Les pido de corazón a todos, somos seres humanos que existimos en este mundo. No queremos vivir contaminados, todos queremos vivir en un ambiente sano, limpio. Para eso te les pido a ustedes. Muchas gracias.
So thank you very much for your interest in our case. and we're very happy that you are here, and we're asking for your help because our problem is situated also here. And we want to ask you from our heart to help us with your solidarity and with concrete actions.
Thank you. Then we go to Piñola. So maybe you can translate this question as well. So for Piñola, maybe to add, we've seen the environmental destruction, maybe to elaborate also on the health impact and what is urgent to be done on that regard.
¿Podrías contar algo sobre el impacto sobre la salud y qué hay que hacer para ese problema?
Muy buenas noches a todos presentes que están acá. Voy a decir al respecto de la empresa Plus Petrol, del daño que nos ha causado a nuestras personas, a nuestros ríos, a nuestros animales y a nosotros mismos.
So I want to tell you about all the damage that Plus Petrol has done to our rivers, our animals and ourselves.
Desde el 2000 hasta el 2015, cuando ha estado la empresa Plus Petrol, nos hizo muchos daños. ¿De qué forma? Nos contaminó a nuestros ríos, a nuestra agua, como lo menciono, y nosotros también que vivimos de allá, somos contaminados. ¿De qué forma lo digo que somos contaminados? Cuando hicieron el examen de la sangre, salimos, mejor dicho, que vivimos ahí, en la sangre con los metales pesados. Y eso es lo más triste para nosotros, que la empresa Plus Petrol durante ese 15 años que he estado operando en lote, aquellos tiempos que el lote se llamaba 1AB, nos hizo muchos daños. Eso es lo más doloroso para nosotros, y que la empresa Plus Petrol nos dejó, violó nuestros derechos, hizo todo, mejor dicho, sin pensar que a nosotros nos estaba haciendo daño. Pero nos hemos dado cuenta que la empresa Plus Petrol hizo muchos daños, y por eso es que estamos acá.
So there's been a toxicological research, and we know that we have heavy metals in our blood. Cadmium, mercury, arsenicum, we know that we have it in our blood. And so this is, of course, causes a tremendous amount of stress if you know that you have that in your body. And that's what Plus Petrol has done to us.
Sabemos perfectamente de la contaminación que tenemos en los metales pesados en la sangre. No es una muerte al instante, pero sabemos por medio de esa contaminación que nos hicieron. Ahorita tengo familiares que tienen problemas, que están en los hospitales. En los exámenes que les hacen salen que por la contaminación que recibimos tenemos ese problema. Y eso es la gran preocupación de nosotros, y por eso es que estamos acá nosotros, mejor dicho en Holanda, para que el Estado, que es el presidente de Holanda, exija a la empresa Plus Petrol que asuma su responsabilidad en hacer lo que es la remediación y también hacer la compensación de los daños que nos hizo a nosotros.
So we have family and friends in hospital. We know that it's related to the heavy metals in our environment and in our blood. And we are here to demand from the Dutch government to pressure Plus Petrol to solve this situation. So they have to clean up the mess they created, they have to remediate it, and they have to pay compensation to all the people that are suffering from them.
Viendo de los sitios impactados que hizo la Plus Petrol, hablamos de 3.249 sitios impactados, que hasta el momento no hay ni un sitio que se haya remediado. Y eso es que nosotros exigimos que tiene que ser remediados y subsanados, así como hizo sus daños a nuestro territorio. La Plus Petrol tiene que asumir la responsabilidad. Y ustedes que están presentes acá, que nos están escuchando, quisiera que nos apoyan de parte de ustedes, que le hagamos este mensaje que damos nosotros.
So it's over 3,200 polluted sites. It's not only oil. With every barrel of oil comes 9 barrels of production water. That's contaminated water, which is also released into the environment. So the pollution is tremendous, and also all of this needs to be cleaned up and sanitated.
Nosotros como líderes que estamos presentes acá en Países Bajos, no venimos a decir una cosa que no es, venimos a decir lo que es la verdad de lo que la empresa Plus Petrol hizo el daño de nuestro territorio. Acá nos encontramos 3 presidentes de la Federación, del Corriente, Tigre y Pastaza, y nosotros como líderes indígenas no vamos a cansarnos de luchar en exigir a la empresa Plus Petrol que cumpla los daños que nos hizo a nuestro territorio.
So we are leaders from 3 different territorial federations of indigenous associations, 3 river basins, and we will continue our struggle till Plus Petrol is finally acting and cleaning up.
Ustedes que viven en Holanda saben perfectamente que la empresa Plus Petrol se encuentra acá en sus países. Y ustedes de repente, porque no conocen el daño que hicieron en nuestro territorio, en nuestro país, pensarán que la empresa Plus Petrol es una buena empresa. Pero sin embargo, nosotros que vivimos allá, la empresa durante que ha estado operando en nuestro territorio no es una buena empresa, sino es una empresa mala que ha dejado contaminando a todos que vivimos allá, como le mencioné delante, nuestros bosques, nuestras aguas, nuestros ríos, todos. ha dejado contaminando. Y eso es que nosotros exigimos que la empresa Plus Petrol tendrá que asumir su responsabilidad de todo ese daño que hizo.
So maybe you're not familiar with Plus Petrol. Maybe you think it's a good company. Well, it certainly is not. They've contaminated our whole natural environment. That's the environment we live off. It's our biodiversity, it's our livelihoods, and they have to clean it up and pay up for it.
Nosotros como líderes que nos encontramos acá, por más que la empresa Plus Petrol se muda a otros países, nosotros vamos a estar atrás de ellos, atrás de la empresa Plus Petrol, diciéndole que tiene que asumir su responsabilidad. Y con eso termino. Espero que de parte de ustedes que están acá nos apoyan nuestros derechos que estamos reclamando de la empresa Plus Petrol que nos hizo mucho daño. Muchas gracias.
And so Plus Petrol might move to another country. That's what they're often doing, and moving these financial flows and corporate entities, but we will hunt them and track them down, and we hope that you're going to help us with that.
And I think it's good that Piñola said it's a bad company, because I visited their website, and in their website they say they value sustainability, contact with communities, and all of these things. So the website tells a different story. Very good. I understood the translation, blah, blah, blah. All right. Thank you. Then we're going to go to our final speaker, which is Robinson Sandy. So maybe you can tell after now this, it's not a legally binding verdict, but this verdict has been done. What has been achieved and what is important for follow-up steps after this verdict, and what kind of positive change that also will bring.
Bien, buenas noches a todos los presentes. Quiero hacer quizás un pequeño resumen y breve al mismo tiempo para poder más o menos acerca de este trabajo que venimos realizando. Es una larga historia, como lo han escuchado a nuestro hermano Aurelio, y también han podido tal vez captar algo de esta reseña en el video.
Yeah, so this story has been going on for a very long time, as you could see in the video and from the testimony of Aurelio.
Entonces, frente a este proceso de trabajo que tenemos, ya venimos llevando, entonces nosotros hemos podido, saben que para nosotros poder exigir algo, tenemos que tener resultados. Porque en un principio, acerca de esta contaminación ambiental en el Estado peruano, no ha sido considerado, porque cuando decíamos nosotros que estamos contaminados o está contaminado nuestro suelo, nos decían, ¿cómo lo saben?
So we did many outreach to the Peruvian government, telling them about our problems, but they were replying like, but how do you know? Are you sure?
Entonces, cuando nos decían cómo lo saben, entonces se procedió a causa de nosotros nos hemos organizado y con los aliados no gubernamentales siempre nos venían apoyando en este proceso. Se pudo exigir al Estado para poder hacer una investigación de nuestro territorio, de nuestros suelos, dentro de los cuales ha dado positivo de que sí estábamos contaminados, porque nosotros mirando decíamos que está la contaminación, pero había documentos que teníamos que mostrar que sí estaba la contaminación eso.
So we demanded the research from of our soils, our health, our blood, and then our suspicions were confirmed. The results of the research was that the whole natural environment and our bodies as well are contaminated.
Y el siguiente paso que hemos ido es también porque decían la contaminación se tenía que demostrar con documentos, y entonces acerca de eso se hizo un examen del examen toxicológico que llamamos nosotros, entonces que se hicieron un examen en la sangre dando positivo todos estos metales pesados, bario, plomo, cadmio, mercurio, y frente a esto entonces hacemos incidencias, y el Estado peruano hasta el momento tampoco nos ha atendido con un tratamiento, con todo esto, porque tenemos entendido que los metales pesados en la sangre no tienen un tratamiento. Hasta el momento no ha sido garantizado que hay un tratamiento para poder quitar, donde nosotros decimos que estamos condenados de por vida.
And so the research confirms that we have cadmium in our blood and lead and mercury and barium. But the problem is that there is no known technology to take this out of your blood. So we're stuck with the problem and we don't know of a solution.
Entonces, con la queja presentado el 2020 y ahora que ha durado un proceso de 5 años, entonces nosotros tenemos entendido de que por lo menos tenemos una respuesta, tenemos un instrumento que nos va a ayudar de mucho y estamos agradecidos por parte de este gran trabajo que realizaron el punto, el de contacto que decimos y de la OCDE, que hicieron este gran trabajo donde que nosotros podemos tener un instrumento y decir que sí hay un responsable y ese responsable se llama Plus Petrol. Entonces creo que tenemos un espacio donde que de un año donde se va a analizar, tanto que lo van a analizar acá en el estado de Holanda y todo el equipo que viene haciendo ese trabajo y nosotros también, como el día de ayer hemos sabido esta respuesta favorable que para nosotros es un instrumento muy importante y por eso estamos agradecidos y entonces regresamos a nuestro país, también nos vamos a sentar para poder analizar y ver cuál es el lineamiento que tenemos que seguir hacia el futuro.
So we are happy with the outcome of the National Contact Point because the final statement, we can use it in our advocacy in Peru, in our legal strategy in Peru. It confirms many of our suspicions. So now we have a document from the OECD that confirms this. And there is also an evaluation moment in 1 year. So then the National Contact Point will approach the different parties and then evaluate what has happened with the outcome of the declaration.
Frente a esto, solamente hacer quizás una llamada de conciencia a cada uno de ustedes de que muchos hoy en día apuestan por la exploración de hidrocarburos en los territorios y genera ingresos, tal vez mejora de vida, cuando tal no es así. Lo único que ha causado en nuestros territorios es un impacto en la flora y la fauna, también en lo social, cultural. En todo esto es terrible las cosas, hablar acerca de esta realidad y lo único que yo les sugiero a cada uno de ustedes es para tal vez sumar esfuerzos, porque yo sé que en todas las empresas, en todo territorio donde que están siendo operadas las empresas petroleras, hay esos mismos impactos, los mismos daños que muchas veces tal vez acá en el país de Holanda, cuántas empresas petroleras tal vez está albergando o tienen sus oficinas como Plus Petrol, que no está operando acá, pero sí tiene una identidad acá que está demostrado. Entonces, frente a esto, yo lo que puedo decir como pueblo originario del pueblo quichua del norte de Perú, si tenemos que perder la vida, no vamos a perder arrodillado, vamos a perder la vida parado, luchando adelante. Gracias.
So many people, many communities think that oil industry will bring jobs and money and welfare. That's not our experience. We've seen disastrous impacts on the nature, on the biodiversity, on flora and fauna. Also socially, culturally, we've seen devastating impacts. And they're all companies, they are worldwide active, and many of them actually have corporate entities here in the Netherlands. So there are hundreds of fossil fuel companies that have thousands of corporate entities in the Netherlands. But the impact is not here in the Netherlands. The impact is in our territories. So we will rather, we will fight and we will rather die standing up than on our knees. Mm.
Thank you all for sharing your stories, and I think you've given us homework, which is also a good bridge to the next segment. Maybe you can thank them for being here, but they will also be able to reply later when we speak to the politicians to what they have to say. So we maybe hear from them later again, but for now, thank them. Yeah. All right. So with these words, I hope we are encouraged to take action. And this is also the part for the next part where we have people from Dutch civil society groups who are trying to translate what has been said now here into action in the Netherlands in solidarity. So we have 3 short pitches from different organizations to see how we can organize follow-up. And the first one is going to be by Chatuleo Tranamil. And Chatuleo Tranamil is a committed advocate for the well-being of all. She is a daughter of Mapuche Pehuenche indigenous peoples from Chile or Wamapu, and currently resides in the Netherlands. As an educator and public speaker, she fervently promotes indigenous rights and intercultural understanding. She's a strong believer of reciprocity. Please give a warm welcome to Chatuleo.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, share with us the call to action that you have.
it?
Yes, it's working.
Yeah, thank you so much for the story. And let's get the bastards. Let's get them. I am quite surprised that you were not having a meeting with me. And why is that? Can I ask the NGOs, why are you referring to them or sending them to students and not to other indigenous people who are located and based here with expertise on this matter? So we could have had fruitful conversations. We could have shared experiences or best practices. And now it's still a monologue and we are not united. And this is also, for me, a way to have a reflection on how can we change this system. And it always starts with the me and what is my part. We are based in the Netherlands, so it is totally true that this is the Lion's Den. That means also from our side, like, how can we see that our way of thinking or how we view the world, it is still a one-sided story. And the way that who owns the story, who owns the resources, who owns the access to whatever, to knowledge, it's still in a certain way being structured that it is unequal. So from my point of view, I would like to share like one of my experiences, what I did with one of the multinationals with success, and also with the help of SOMO and with the help of other small NGOs. And it is interesting to see, can we have, from that experience, can we go to, for example, best practices or guidelines? Yes, we can. The only way that we need to stop is to have our language over that certain solution. So when you talk about nature rights, or when you think that that is the solution, then you are seeing it from a Western point of view, and it is more marketing than it's actually contributes to a certain solution. So the struggle for indigenous rights have been so long. It is a legal tool. It is something that we have fought for real hard. So you have ancestral, indigenous, or land rights, and those are essential for us to know. So who has knowledge about indigenous rights? Who can say, yeah, I know maybe 3. Please raise your hands. And that's the problem. And that's something that you cannot learn by books. You have to learn it from indigenous. So the agency now is here. And that means also that sometimes I feel like, okay, so let's start with the first lecture, indigenous rights. So the right to non-repetition, the right to have land, the rights to your world vision, the rights to identity, the rights, there's so many, the non-repetition. So that is, it doesn't matter what multinational we're talking about, because if you have knowledge about the right to non-repetition, you have a way to beat the multinational. But we are not listening to other indigenous peoples because we think that we own the solution, but that's not true. So how I would like to help, because I said let's beat the bastard out of this, is first of all, let's see what is happening and what have been happening. So there was a case with this multinational. I have done some research. In 2013, they needed to pay $7 million as already like a punishment. So we can tackle that one. There's another way to approach it because it's a multi-stakeholders framework you can use. The other is, okay, you need to go to the state. You need to make sure that the state is being sued. I have seen that they have recognized indigenous peoples in that sense, so that's good. Suriname haven't done that, so that is something that Peru is doing. But by suing the state, you can have jurisdiction, and then we can move on. You should go to the World Bank. And it is bollocks, to be honest, that we are not able to do something about it here in the Netherlands, because the European Union is the first foreign partner. So you can really say to your state, Peru, we are going to close the money as long as you're not going to respect what is shared, respect what should be done by the multinational, because at the end of the day, your state is also, part of this problem. So you can go to the European Union and we can make the same line of attack, what has been done in Nicaragua, to go exactly how they have been doing. So there are so many stories, indigenous way of doing to fight this. But if you are only talking to the white NGOs, you miss this story. You will miss this advocacy. And that's a pity. Because if you have seen all the other indigenous peoples, we should unite. We should collect. We should empower each other. We should be there for each other. And that is something that we only can do if also the NGOs see that you also have a role to play in this one. So why is this? That nobody is going to help indigenous liberation movement, for example, with funding. Why is it that indigenous peoples in the Netherlands have still less than 1% of all the financial funding? Because something is there and we are not able to talk about it, and it is still the unequal way of doing. How are you going to do it? So for me to conclude this, I think that there are so many good things that you can use. You have an excellent case. You have a good case, and I hope that you have the power for the future generations, because that is what we are going to do about it. So hold on and stay strong and make sure that the people you have been surrounded to, that they are going to help you. You have been, I think that you are doing this for such a long time. I rather have you going to the sauna to have a good rest and to make sure that you are empowered, and let them deal for one day. Let them deal with the fight, because you have been fight for so long, and I feel you. So I am here as an indigenous sister. Know that we are here. Know that we also are in alliance then. So the next time you're coming here, and the next time NGOs, you have an indigenous delegation, please make sure that we know. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chatule. You can take a seat, but also for you, you can later respond when the politicians come. So yeah, many layers has been shared, but one of the things that I remember from this call to action is to work more between indigenous communities and together with that and the NGOs, so that there's also knowledge exchange between the indigenous communities, how to fight these corporations. So for the next part, we have Joseph Wilde Ramsing from SOMO, who has also been part of one of the organizations that have been working on the case towards the OECD. So I'm going to introduce Joseph. And Joseph, you can come here while I'm reading your bio. Please give a warm applause to Joseph. So Joseph is a SOMO's advocacy director and has a broad experience and expertise in corporate accountability across wide range of sectors, including energy, extractivities, manufacturing, and finance. And he has an expertise also on how it's built with the OECD. So please, a warm welcome to Joseph.
Thanks very much. And I'm really going to try to keep it short, because I want to make sure that most of the time that we're here tonight is spent with the delegation from the indigenous leaders in Peru, and with the two parliamentarians who are here that we're honored to have here tonight too. So I will keep it very quick, just to tell you a little bit about SOMO's role in this and how we have been supporting Aurelio and the indigenous federations. I was one of the people that met with Aurelio in 2015 when he came, and we indeed, SOMO is specialized in doing corporate research. We have a new institute that we call the Counter, which does corporate research exactly like this to support communities and to support indigenous peoples around the world in their struggles with information, because we believe at SOMO that information is power, and getting this type of information to the people who are on the front lines, not directing or telling them what they have to do with it or what needs to happen, but really to get the power to them. That's what we do. So we did help the federations identify that corporate structure that Plus Patrol had, showed the type of corporate structure and tax evasion practices that Plus Patrol set up to basically both avoid its responsibility for human rights and environmental violations in Peru, but also avoid taxes. And after we did that, and after Aurelio was here in 2015, we also started looking with some of the international lawyers and the Peruvian lawyers, indigenous lawyers that Aurelio mentioned, looking at possible pathways to justice and possible pathways to remedy to sort of get at the demands and get back at Plus Patrol, fight for the rights. And we looked at various options. Of course, very disappointing is the fact, as Aurelio mentioned, that we don't have a good law here in the Netherlands to actually hold corporations like Plus Patrol accountable. We looked in Peru with Peruvian lawyers and with indigenous lawyers in Peru. We realized there too, of course, that there are many, many obstacles to justice, and that the fight for justice in Peru is a long one. So we did, together with the communities, decide to pursue this OECD guidelines complaint. OECD is a piece of international law that sets expectations for business. As Aurelio mentioned, it has the massive disadvantage of being non-binding on companies, but it does set, in a sense, a way to get a piece of justice, at least, a piece of remedy. And so when we filed that complaint, we filed the case together with Aurelio and the colleagues in 2020, 5 years ago now. We hoped for actually exactly what we ended up getting this week when we were in Wednesday at the Foreign Ministry. We hoped for a strong recognition of the damage that Plus Patrol has done environmentally and on human rights level. We hoped for a recognition of the fact that Plus Patrol had failed to respect the right to free, prior, and informed consent, an essential collective human right of indigenous peoples around the world, and a recognition that Plus Patrol was evading taxes, avoiding paying taxes through its construction here. So this statement that we got now from the national contact point that we've been talking about is a very clear judgment on the activities of Plus Patrol. And now it's time, and that's where I'm very glad that we have two members of parliament here tonight, and we have been talking to the ministry, as we mentioned earlier in the week. It's time to see what are we going to do about it. And there are two questions or sort of propositions that I would like to pose, and I know that our colleagues from the parliament are going to reflect on this later, is why is a company like Plus Patrol allowed to be set up in the Netherlands? This company has no presence here. It has no real activities here. It only uses its presence here to evade taxes and to allow it to avoid responsibility for human rights. This is a structure that should not exist. And this is one case that we're talking about here. The Netherlands has thousands of letterbox companies like this, violating human rights and the environment in countries around the world. This is really something that needs to stop. This whole system of the tax paradise, tax havens. And the second is there is now a real momentum for a law, due diligence law, that would take what the National Contact Point has done, very clearly identifying violations of human rights and the environment, failure to respect FPIC. That should be illegal. It shouldn't just be a voluntary standard that we hope that companies do. It should actually be illegal. And there is a movement now. There is a policy trajectory in Europe going on this, but it is going very slow. We know right-wing political forces are taking over, so it's a call now to the Netherlands. Let's have a law like that here in the Netherlands. We don't need to wait for Europe. It's very possible to do that in the Netherlands right now. So those are the two propositions based on this case that I would like to put to our colleagues from the Parliament.
And I'll make sure to bring those propositions back to the parliamentarians. Please give a thank you to Joseph. So to elaborate a bit more on the tax system, as Joseph already mentioned, there's a lot going on with tax evasion and companies being active elsewhere but having offices here. Is Henrike Alencar. So please give a warm welcome to Henrike. He's a policy advisor on tax and inequality at Oxfam Novum with primary focus on capacity development, fiscal justice and energy transition. Please give an applause for Henrike.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. First of all, just would like to say it was very powerful, your contribution, and we of course support very much your struggle. So as mentioned, we have worked more on the, let's say, on the tax side of this process. And just to give a little bit of a context, what have we found that Pluspetrol, how have they behaved here in the Netherlands? So first is the issue, as Joseph mentioned, that basically Pluspetrol is registered as a company here. However, they have no offices, they have no real economic activity. At the time that we did the complaint that we drafted, we could find one employee on the country. So it's really, just a case of a very clearly artificial structure that is built to, again, take advantage of the tax haven structure here in the Netherlands. What we have also found as we were investigating is basically the lack of transparency of the company. And I think this relates a lot to what has been said. So, for example, they did not file the financial statements they were required to file. They also did not disclose their information regarding who are their actual beneficial owners. So I believe Aurelio also mentioned that, basically chasing around, different structures, different countries, and never being able to locate a final person that is responsible for it. So really this extremely unsettling
It made the legal
situation.
route difficult.
Exactly, exactly. And I think here is when we move from what the company has done to really the context here in the Netherlands. And again, as Joseph mentioned, this is not a surprising case. This is one of thousands.
It's a structure.
Exactly, yeah. So what we have here is really this use of letterbox companies. We don't have to walk too much from here. If we get to the southern part of the city, you have buildings there where thousands and thousands of companies are registered, and there is no real person, there is no real economic activity. Those companies are here just based on papers and documents, and again, they take advantage of the situation here in the Netherlands. And what's most important for us to consider is, of course, this has negative impact for people who live here in the Netherlands, but who really, really gets shortchanged is, of course, people living in other countries. A lot of the times are people living in the global south. So I think it's important for us to consider the impact that the Netherlands has in other countries. So when we talk a little bit about the Netherlands in this context of international taxation, it's very clear that, unfortunately, the Netherlands is one of the most harmful actors when we talk about international taxation, when we talk about how multinationals are structured. So what could the Netherlands do to improve the situation? Again, following on Joseph's footsteps, I think the issue really is, most of all, to address the issue of those letterbox companies. There needs to be a requirement for a company to be here that it has, real economic activity. Is there an office? Is there somebody picking up a phone? Is there anything really happening here? Again, that's rare in a lot of those office buildings. So a few years ago, there has been a committee set up and a report made to try to address those issues with letterbox companies. A few recommendations have been implemented, but mainly let's say the position of the Dutch government is, we're waiting for something to be decided at European level, and then we will implement it here. But of course, that's really not the case. We can, not we, I'm not Dutch, but the Netherlands can implement and improve the situation very much, unilaterally. It doesn't need to be waiting for something to come from Brussels in that regard. And of course, there is also, very strong voices that say that actually the Netherlands is one of the countries that tries to water down those initiatives because, they, of course, go against the interests. Exactly, unfortunately, that's it. I would also say very important right now, let's say on the international tax world, there is a new negotiation happening at the United Nations to have a more inclusive and effective international tax framework. There has actually been the first sessions of it in New York a couple of weeks ago. And what I would say is for the Netherlands and, of course, all other OECD countries, European Union countries, to engage in those processes, with good faith and constructively, and to really try to understand that the current system, where the European Union, the United States, and the OECD countries, they design the rules to favor them. This has created a huge, negative impact across the world. So I'd say, there's a lot to be done for sure, but those are a couple of the ideas.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Please give a warm applause to Henrike. So then to the final part, as promised, we're going to try to translate it more in policy. Please give a warm welcome. And more political parties have been invited, but these were the only two willing to make time for today. So that's we're happy that you're here. Those are Daniela Hirsch, as a parliamentarian from GroenLinks, and Mapansu Bamenga from D66, GroenLinks PvdA, I should say. Please give a warm welcome to both of them. So, of course, a lot of layers have been discussed, and some of the concrete things being, one of your ministries have been consulted from Foreign Affairs saying, but there's no laws doing anything binding, so I guess there's the law aspect that is not binding enough. And on the other side, we have a tax system that, has a lot of damage and impacts on the country. So, and a lot of elements on the lack of accountability. As the indigenous representative said, there should be accountability that they repair the damage. Taking that into context and your position in Parliament, having listened to all these stories, what are your next steps? What are you going to do with what you've heard so far?
Okay. Primero quiero agradecer a ustedes por venir y tener la paciencia de, yo creo, 10 años. Por insistir en justicia y también tener la paciencia de hablar con gente cada vez que no le creen, porque yo creo escuchar de las historias que ustedes han dicho, que han encontrado mucho descreimiento y han tenido que probar cosas que no deberían ser su responsabilidad de probar. So, and I'm going to continue in English because it doesn't really matter. I just wanted to say thank you to the people that came here from Peru, and I have met many people in my working life that have gone through similar processes, and I know how degrading it is to have to explain yourself again and again and prove things that are so obvious to people that simply don't want to believe you. So I think it's not only justice, but there's also inequity in the way we treat people that we don't recognize as ourselves. So
they had to wait for a 5-year process to be approved.
Yeah, 5-10 years, and having been there, I mean, I can see that people have been there for their whole lives, and their children are there now, and we know what happens to people that live in these circumstances. So, having said that, what we do in Parliament, and I just want to make sure that everybody understands, and I think I speak for you as well, Mpanzu, we're not in government. We're both part of the opposition, and we're also not the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And at least if I speak for myself, I'm extremely frustrated by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that has been operating from a position of not knowing what companies that are in the Netherlands do. And denying responsibility because there's no law. And we have been working on such a law together with 3 other parties, so 5 in total. And that law has been stalled and stalled and stalled. And
with
now
stalling, you
we're
mean
stalling.
what? How is it stalled? Is it disagreed with, or how is it stalled?
It has been. It always was made, and there are many people in this room have been part of the process to make sure that what we know as the OECD guidelines that have been used to get to the verdict that we got, which is great. We try to get exactly those OECD guidelines into law so that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and all the companies couldn't say anymore, well, yeah, we can have this verdict, but it's not binding, so good luck with it. Because that's basically what they're saying. So we tried to get a national law, then it was postponed because there was a negotiation for the European law, then we got a European law. And that has been now weakened because a couple of fossil fuel companies have gone to the European Commission and have again tried to, or succeeded probably, in weakening that law to a huge extent. To such an extent that where a company like Plus Petrol would have been under the former law, they will not have to confirm with the law as it's proposed right now. Just to say that there is, in legal ways, we don't have anything to hang on to yet. But having said that,
you can also make policy proposals, right?
We have.
Yeah.
No, but we have made legal proposals. But again, we have no majority in parliament, and that is how we make laws in this country. And I can tell you that, and this is maybe a bit less legal, and I am sure that people that live in a country like Peru will recognize what I say. It's not only politicians and it's not only majorities in government. What we actually see by now is that we have a lot of Dutch and multinational companies in the Netherlands and in Europe that make, that to my view, abuse of the situation that we have extreme right governments to actually weaken the laws that we had that ruled what they were doing. So it's not only a matter of being very strict on issues such as corporate responsibility, but we see an active weakening of the state of our democracy and all the legal system that greatly favors large companies.
Thank you for, do you have something to add, Mapansu?
Yes, definitely. Thank you very much for having me here. I think it was very important to be here. Thank you very much for sharing your story, Sandy, Pinola, and also Chino. Thank you very much for your courage and your strength, and also for your fight. And I think it's very important. You're doing it for yourself, but you're also doing it for your community, but also for the whole world. Because I believe that this fight on justice is not only your fight, but it's actually our fight together. And we should fight it together as well. And by saying that, of course, I heard that what you have done. Of course, it's gracious, you know, to be patient and to have such a drive that took you 5 years basically to come up with this verdict. I do believe that this verdict is very, very important, even though it's a soft law or anything else. I've seen it in the past myself. I've seen it with, you know, a court case, which was also soft law. But when soft law is being verdict, there are always people, politicians like us, who can bring more awareness. There are always NGOs who can bring more awareness. So this verdict can actually be used as a momentum to make sure that something changes, actually. And this awareness can also be very important, because with awareness, when more people in society cares about that situation, it can also bring a shift or a change. So I believe in that. I believe in that power of change, power of movement, basically, to cooperate with each other, to make sure that there are that you are working on it, but you also have allies that is also helping you out to work on it. And there is many examples of it. And I also heard before that, you know, we need to make sure that soft law gets to hard law. Some people here are aware about the fact that before I was in politician, before I was in parliament, I was a human rights lawyer, also a human rights activist, and together with Amnesty International and Control Alt Delete and other human rights organizations, we came up with, we actually did a lawsuit against the state to basically stop racial profiling here in this country. And we won that case after 5 years as well. But you would say that that would be enough, but that wasn't enough because the government didn't want to implement it on the right way. So this is an example of hard law, but you see the government didn't want to implement it the right way. So that was actually one of the reasons why I said to myself, I need to go to parliament to make laws, to make sure that racial profiling is basically forbidden by law. So you see that making soft law hard law is not necessarily the final step. So what's more important is to make sure that there is more and more awareness in society, and so that society cares about what is happening out there, because and then I believe you can really achieve sustainable change, because that same society will support us with the law that we already are making, and make sure that we do have a majority in parliament to make sure that we can implement this law.
And maybe, is there another instrument? Because let's say, okay, you both have an intention to make it hard law. Let's say the majority for the coming 5-10 years doesn't happen in the Dutch context because of the current political situation. Is there anything you can do? Because as a parliamentarian, you also check the ministries. You have some instruments to pressure a minister also to act. Are there concrete things you can do now to put at least, because I don't know how long we wait for hard law, to at least with this verdict say why you as a minister, because they still have a choice, they choose not to pressure them. Are there things you can do to pressure the minister, and what will you do?
Yeah, I would say, we can come together, we can even do it with more parties and start asking questions about it. This is happening now. And we can use this as a momentum to start asking questions to the minister and saying, what will you do? I heard a lot of good ideas, what should be the next step. So we can ask all these difficult questions already. And I do believe that end of the month, or the beginning or next month, there will be a debate. And we can try to use all the information that we get to also ask questions during those debates to make sure there is pressure, because the more and more we talk about it, the more and more it's on the agenda, and the more the minister has to do something about it, even though it's not hard law, but at least there is pressure, and when there is pressure, there is a little bit movement.
Yes, okay. And are there anything you want to add, or strategies that you can use as a position as a parliamentarian to put pressure, increase pressure?
So we have been asking a lot of questions on similar cases. So it definitely has an impact because although also people in ministries are aware of what is happening, so that's a target group by itself. So that's one. But in this case, particularly, and that's also why I think it's great that NCP had a very strong verdict. It's very special that the verdict is on a letterbox firm. So it's as far as I know, it's the first time that the NCP, I don't even know any NCP, but as far as I know, it has never been a verdict on a letterbox firm. That means that we now have a step up to not only go to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but also go to the Ministry of Finance and say what kind of consequences this verdict of the NCP has on their policies related to letterbox firms. And I think that's a very interesting one, because on the one hand, we need to go to have continue to generate discussion about this with companies, with the government, but also with people in the Netherlands. On the other hand, we have to use anything in our might to get these letterbox firms out of the Netherlands. So any court case that bothers them works for me.
All right. I want to add one follow-up question about the tax companies. So there's one practice to say, okay, we're going to stop that practice, right? But the harm is already done by taking away the taxes. Would you also want to put pressure on if they find the numbers, because often there's no transparency, how much money the Dutch government has pocketed to put pressure, because these communities have been damaging, and the Netherlands have been profiting from the damage for these communities and so forth, that money, because the Peruvian government will not have the money anymore because we taxed it, that money goes back to the Peruvian state or the communities for repair, so that it also becomes a pressure point, not only to stop future harm, but to repair past harm with the money that we've stolen from the Peruvian context.
I think that's a very genuine question, or that is a proposal that we could make. I only wonder, and probably Somo or others in the room know more about that, how much taxes actually are being paid by these companies in the Netherlands. Because of course, what they do is, and that's why they're not only in the Netherlands, but that's
but
also why in the Cayman Islands. As far as I always understood the whole tax evasion system, is that there is a whole system that makes sure that you don't pay any taxes at all anywhere. So
or
I
maybe
don't know.
1%,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
very low.
So I think it is a way to do this, but I don't think it will bring up enough enough compensation for, and the company has to pay compensation.
And do you think, because there's an issue of transparency, would you be in the capability, because when I listened to their case, how they build it, it was together with the information they gather with the NGOs to find out, where's what. Sometimes as a parliamentarian, you can also get this transparency, right? Or not?
No. Well, anytime you ask, so at least in my experience, but maybe you have another experience, anytime that I ask questions about a specific company, the answer is always, this is like, what's it called?
Vertrouwelijk.
Confidential information that we are, as a government, are not allowed to share because it's a private actor, etc.
So there also needs to be laws on maybe transparency of money.
Well,
so there's also
could be, but I just do believe that by putting pressure to certain countries or to certain companies that are not abiding, the law, companies most of the time they need permits for stuff of the government, or they need they need credits, or they need a lot of things from the government. I think that these are also pressure points actually to use towards those companies. And I do agree that we need to make sure that this letterbox construction that it stops, because we don't benefit from it at all. And we need to make sure that that those companies are basically repairing the situation, the damage that they did, the impact that they did, that they have to repay that, and make sure that there is reparation for the people who are impacted from it. Because sometimes the impact is not even to repair. How can you repair when you have lost your health? How can you repair that? So it's sometimes irreparable. So that's why I believe that we need to make sure that we protect our citizens, and not only the citizens here, but also the citizens out there.
Yeah. No, and the reason I asked
one other thing I wanted to add, though, is that we can also organize hearings, right? Hearings to make sure that more people in Parliament are basically informed about what is happening there, so that more people will feel the same urge like we are feeling to basically come up with actions towards it. Yeah.
No, and the reason why I also asked this part on the tax evasion and the money pocketed to the Dutch government is I believe not only the company should pay reparations, but I feel that the Dutch government, as a complicit party, must also be part of the reparations process in paying, because they've decapitated that context to implement reparations, and not only for the money, the 1%, but let's say normally a company pays 30 or 40% of taxes. So all that loss is a loss damage. So I think in that sense, the Dutch government is let's say in an ideal world, a co-complicit person or legal entity that should be part of the reparations process, in my opinion. But I don't know if you agree that it's not just the company, but really also up to the Dutch government to repay.
I don't want to be. I don't know how many Dutch people are in this room, but if we would start there, the Netherlands has a huge this. So no, I mean I agree, and we have been making the point forever in government. That or in both from the NGO side where I was in earlier and now that I'm in government, that this idea that the Netherlands is a country that is one of the most rich and blah 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 countries of the world, which is true, but its footprint is one of the biggest globally. So if we don't start addressing that in general, not only in this case, but it's everywhere. It's in our agriculture sector, it's in our transport sector, it's in our harbor port development sector, it is in our fossil fuel sector. So yes, I agree. And in an ideal world, that would have happened already. It's the other way around. The damage wouldn't have happened because we would have thought of this way before, but we didn't.
Thank
so
you.
I agree. In an ideal world.
So maybe final question, and then I want to leave room maybe for the speakers, the NGOs, the indigenous community to also respond to what you've shared if they want to, and for the audience. But maybe one final question. So we've talked about maybe what should be done ideally with hard law, maybe with reparations, but also smaller steps that we can take, like inquiries and everything. There's one final, let's say, position of power you have as parliamentarians, and that's, I guess, you have more access to media or reach or platform or social media. And what I've understood when listening to them, one of the elements is they lack credibility, because if people say, when they say it, it's not listened, they have to go to all kind of things. Are there ways that you will make sure that, let's say, civil society, you use your platform also beyond, let's say, the political, technical things, but also in civil society? Are there things you will do or can do campaign-wise, let's say, to support their voices? If you could respond to that.
No, definitely, because I'm very shocked about what I've heard, and also because, of course, I know that this is happening. I'm, for instance, I'm born in Congo, and I know what is happening for more than 30 years, and even more than 30 years, like for ages, basically, the colonization and also what came from that. Of course, I know about the injustice, what is happening so far till now, and also to hear this and to see the video about, in what kind of situation you have been living and what kind of fight you are fighting. I feel like this is also a fight that should be ours as well. So we should adopt that. And that's why I do believe that, I will do what I can to make sure that this case, also the outcome of this case, that we bring it, is shared widely, shared, in my own social media, but also I hope that we can, basically start with asking questions and organizing hearings, doing stuff to make sure that we use this momentum to basically make some steps forward. And also the letterbox, what just has been said, the letterbox construction, I think that it's very important to really use this case to make that point, because like my colleague Daniela just said, it's a very broader issue that is damaging a lot of communities around the world. So we need to do something about it.
Thank you. Final words for Daniela before we go.
Yeah, maybe. Some of you might know that I have been part of the NGO movement that is involved in these sorts of issues. And one of the reasons I wanted to go into parliament was that I knew that my platform would be bigger. And I have been communicating about cases like these, and I will, of course, do it about this one as well. And I hope that either when you're still here or next time people are here, that we can organize a meeting in Parliament. Because although you might not believe it, I have been sort of pleasantly surprised sometimes that there is actually quite a group of people in Parliament that is interested in listening. They're not necessarily interested in acting, but they don't have a clue about what's happening in the rest of the world. So we need to bring it to them. I'm sorry to say it, I have been shocked by it. But we need to be in parliament with the people that tell their stories, not even stories, their experiences, to demand also from the others to be aware and thus to act. And so we need to take that step.
All right. Thank you for sharing and the steps that at least you want to take. And I hope, we have talked about long-term strategies, more short-term things we can do, and the platforms that we can use. So I want to open now, before to the audience, maybe if there's a response from one of the previous speakers or the indigenous community themselves to this conversation, and if not, then I want to open the room for the audience to ask questions or react. The lightning is very, and I cannot see who's who. So you were not one of the speakers, but I can, oh yeah, you were? Okay, then you can, I hear as well. Maybe we can do it in the, for you first, Gino? Yeah. If you like, Gino, you can come forward again, and I don't know if Case is here. Okay, okay, then we can give him the, yeah.
Sí, muchas gracias a los señores parlamentaria de este país que han escuchado de nuestra propia boca mismo las afectaciones que tenemos dentro de nuestro territorio. Yo sé que ustedes, ya que están dentro del Congreso, que elaboran propuestas de leyes, en eso necesitaríamos que nos ayuden, que se cambie. Yo sé que desde este país, con la presión de este país al Perú, le vamos a enderezar también nuestro gobierno propio de nuestro propio país. Está, no sé, solamente vemos que escuchamos que hacen normas, leyes, pero favoreciendo a ellos, no para los pueblos o para todos los ciudadanos, no para los pueblos indígenas. En eso yo les pido a ustedes para que nos apoyen en esa parte. Muchas gracias.
So he wants to thank you for also taking the time to listen to them and to listen to the realities that they're living in their communities. He was also, he's asking you from your Congress and parliamentarian role to strengthen the laws in this country to avoid these case and other cases to continue or to repeat themselves. And he was also saying that by strengthening the laws here in the Netherlands, it has a huge impact in Peru, and it can have an impact or pressure in Peru to push the Congress and the government there to also do more to hold accountable companies like Plus Petrol. Peru is in a situation where the parliament is acting in a way where it advantages more the life of the views of the congressmen than they're more interested in that than protecting the rights of indigenous people or the rights of the people in general. And so he thinks that by setting an example here, it can also be a powerful tool to move the Congress in the right direction in Peru too. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to do the first three, and then if all three have a question, and otherwise.
Sí, más bien agradecerle porque puede escuchar que se suman a nuestra causa. Lo que nosotros no estamos queriendo diciendo que nos escuchen tal vez por salvaguardar nuestra vida nuestra, sino porque este tipo de cosas está pasando en diferentes partes del mundo, y dentro de los cuales nosotros nos encontramos en la Amazonía. Tenemos entendido que los árboles, la Amazonía es el pulmón del mundo que purifica el aire. Entonces, ayúdanos a poder salvaguardar la vida de todo el mundo entero, porque nosotros estamos en la Amazonía y donde nosotros, de esos lugares salen el oxígeno para nosotros seguir respirando. Solamente decirles que con esa, quizás es muy complicado trabajar con la mayoría y siendo minoría. Entonces es complicado esto, pero creo que sumando esfuerzos vamos a poder llegar a avanzar paso a paso y que sean escuchadas nuestras voces. Gracias.
So he wanted to say that the stories that they shared with you today, it's not only to save themselves, it's something to also save the world, because they come from the Amazon and they're protecting the Amazon rainforest that is essential for anyone on Earth. And by protecting their territories, they're also protecting Earth, and by that they're also bringing a service to the whole humanity. And the second point, he was saying that it's hard to appeal to a majority when you come from a minority, and that, but he believes that step by step they can continue to make their cases heard until they achieve justice. Yeah. Creo que we're going to finish with the round.
Sí, muchas gracias al escucharle a los dos parlamentarios que están acá. Sinceramente nos sentimos agradecidos de parte de nosotros, y así quisiera que ustedes también nos apoyan con los demás parlamentarios que son de este país, para poder llegar más, para poder decirles, así como ustedes lo han visto acá en el video y también lo están escuchando, nuestra manifestación, decirles que esa empresa Plus Petrol de lo que ha hecho en nuestros territorios. Quisiera que ustedes nos apoyan de esa forma para poder llegar más con los demás parlamentarios y decirles que a eso es lo que venimos nosotros acá en este Países Bajos, decirles que se asumen a nosotros de lo que están viendo, tanto en el video y de lo que nos manifestamos, que seamos atendidos, y que el país de Holanda exija a la empresa Plus Petrol que cumpla sus daños que ha hecho en nuestro territorio.
He's also thanking you for your time and for being here, and he's also asking you to continue to advocate for this case with the other MPs, and that you can continue to do that work in Congress, so more people can also support the case and continue to vote in that direction, and that we need to have a majority in Congress here in this country to also make a difference for this case. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for sharing the perspectives.
Thank you. I heard something what you mentioned, and I want to think along, is you mentioned that we don't know what is being shared. So the contract, for example, is like secret. Well, when you think about indigenous rights, the free, prior, and informed consent, they have a right to be informed prior. They have a right, the fullest rights, to have an understanding what is being written down and what is the purpose of this multinational. The other thing that you mentioned was about, for example, maybe there is no law, but there isn't law when you think about the indigenous rights again, the right to be an injured party. That is an indigenous right. So it's not only stories, it is actually an evidence-based legal tool to mention that their stories, what have been shared, is actually a good case to use to make sure that they have the recognition as an injured party. The last thing I want to make sure is that we're thinking about Peru, but they are not represented by the state of Peru. They are indigenous peoples. That means that as soon as we have a multinational that doing an activity in a certain country, for example, Peru, there need to be a memorandum of understanding with the indigenous as well. Now it's only between a state and a multinational, and that needs to be changed, because then you have the fullest foundation, not only to have your indigenous rights at place, but also based on the memorandum of understanding, you have more freedom, leverage to see that, for example, the assessment that have been taking place, you can have an objective review. So it starts with the recognition that they are not Peru. They are indigenous peoples, and every time when there is a multinational, they should have a memorandum of understanding as well. and then we can talk.
Thank you. Maybe you can respond to that, because I want them to give time to give their reflection. I'm going to do another round where there's room for the audience. So Joseph has one first, and then I'm going to go
Okay,
back.
I'll be very brief, and I just want to say thank you to both of you for being here tonight. And we know how hard that you're fighting in a very difficult situation, and how frustrating it must be, because you have to stand in front of those assholes in the parliament every day. Excuse my language. So I know how frustrating it can be, and especially I want to put a little plug in for Daniela. If you're Dutch and you can vote in the upcoming elections, vote for Daniela. She's number 23 on GroenLinks PvdA. But at the same time, I think it is clear that there, especially in this current context, there's really only so much that you can do from the inside politics. We really need to, I think all of us here, we need to get more out into the streets. We need to get into the social movements. We did a little protest today in front of the letterbox headquarters of Plus Patrol with about 40 people. That kind of direct action and like mobilization, we were there with Extinction Rebellion, but there's so many other indigenous social movements, climate groups, youth groups. I think we really need to build the power from the outside too, because you're not going to be able to do it only by yourselves in there. So we really need to mobilize a lot broader, get a lot of more people on this.
Clear call to action to also organize as a parliamentarian outside parliament, and maybe also with what Chatuleo shared, the FPIC or the free prior consent element, because we've talked about soft law to hard law, but there's this Declaration of Indigenous Rights internationally. Maybe you can respond to that as well. How can we make that hard laws as well in that direction? And respond to anything that has been said as well.
Yeah. I don't know for you, Mpansu, but when you invite me for a demonstration, I'm almost always going. So just invite me on time. Because I also need the energy that exudes from those groups of people that stand up and fight, which we cannot do in debates in Parliament, although you want to stand up and fight sometimes. So also for parliamentarians, it's sort of a very important thing to be present when the fight's on. And maybe most of you know, but I think on the 21st of September, we marched for 3 days from Maastricht to Brussels to force or to have a voice against the deregulation that's going on all these laws. And it's environmental movements, unions, and so also politicians will go there. And I'm definitely there the first day.
Nice.
So I love demonstrations. That's one. And the second reaction I have, and that is just to even make it more important than what you're saying about your own experience. What you are defending is our planet. And I think that the importance of you coming to the Netherlands and talking about what your experience is not only because of the injustice by itself, but also because of you're in the front lines of defending natural resources, the planet, Pachamama, I don't know what you want to call it, which is the substance of all our existence. And I think people here have no idea about what's happening to our planet. So your lived experience and you showing us what happens to the Amazon and to your lives and what it means to have those contamination in your blood, we need to be aware of what's happening to us as well. And so that's the other reason that you need to come to Parliament next time and tell your story. And there's a third reason. And I try to say that more or less because you are right. The FPIC is definitely a right that is existing under the OECD guidelines. In the Netherlands, we have laws that say that people that live in places where in the Netherlands we develop projects, fossil fuel projects, development, they have to be informed. And even in the Netherlands where it is law, it's not being implemented. So we have to make sure that people that suffer the consequences of investments, projects, whatever you want to call it, at wherever they are, get the right to say no to these interventions. And I totally agree, we have to work on FPIC. It's in the proposal that we have put in front of Parliament, just as all the other basic principles of the OECD guidelines.
Mm-hmm. And maybe Mupanso also, if you add and respond to the different layers, the FPIC I think also was part of the question. It's not only Peru, it's indigenous people, so a clear positioning of indigenous peoples, but yeah.
This is working. No, definitely, and thank you very much for your contribution and your advocacy, because exactly what you're saying for me is also very important to have a special position for the indigenous people. In Parliament, what I try to do is to have a lot of attention for the voices that are not being heard. You know, because I remember by myself, I was 17 and a half years, I was an undocumented migrant. So you know, in the language of the Netherlands, will be an illegal migrant for 17 and a half years. So I've felt how it is to not be counted basically by law, that people are not counting you, that you simply exist in society, even though I am here, basically. So by experiencing that, I know the importance to have a voice, basically, and to use your voice for society, for not only yourself, but for your society and also for our nature. So that's why I really appreciate what you just said, and I think it is very important to bring that knowledge as well in Parliament and to make sure that we do speak about it in that way. Nothing about us without us, basically, you know, and we are expecting that we are talking with the people when we are talking with the government, but actually we are not. And this is a very important awareness, and that's why, like I said before, we should make sure that we organize a hearing and that we have you the next time as well in Parliament to speak, you know, because we can share what we experienced here, but it is more important that people listen to you and hear you speak in Parliament as well. So so that's one point. And the other point is that I think that yeah, when you talk about demonstrating, tomorrow I will be to the next demonstration, will be about migration, of course, about what is happening here, because they want to criminalize migrants. This is the next demonstration that I will be to basically support the rights of migrants as well. And I do believe, well, you said about Daniela, thank you very much. She is a very appreciated colleague, so I do hope I do hope that she will be back in Parliament. I'm also a candidate, number 10 of the Democrat 66.
Keep it short, because it's not an election program. But
yeah.
Vote.
No,
vote.
but he
yeah.
Okay. So but just to end up is that I'm very happy to hear you speak about what you're doing for our nature, and I think that we have all the responsibility to basically do something about it, and we will.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. So, and thank you both for all your work and your dedication to come here. I said I would leave room for the audience, and I have to apologize. We only have 7 more minutes, but I didn't want to rush also the indigenous delegations to speak, and there was translations, so things take a bit more time, and I want to make sure that they have the time to speak as well and respond first. So, what I want to suggest is that I leave room for 2 questions, and the type of question that you feel like, if I haven't asked this, you know, sometimes you feel it itching, like I have to ask it, it's really important. If you have that feeling, I want to give you the room to ask that question, and I can only take 2. So there's, oh, I see 2 hands. There's 3. Okay, so then it's going to be, there's 4. Okay, think again, feel belly. Yes, yeah.
Before, because I know there's always more questions. We both have email addresses, and
Okay,
we both really, I know, if you want to come to Parliament and talk to us and just talk a bit more about what you think is needed, I really appreciate people coming to Parliament. And I think there's too few people that do so. So just send me an email.
That's a good invitation.
And just come.
Right.
And it's nice for, at least, I don't speak, yeah. It's nice for us as well that people come and show interest in what we're doing.
So I'm gonna pick 2 out of 4. So raise your hands if your belly is still itching, and then I'm gonna. Okay, so there's 2. I'm gonna do 1 in the. I'm gonna divide it over the 2 sides. 1 in the front and 1 in the left.
Yeah.
Oh, you already have a microphone. Okay, you
yes.
got lucky. Okay, lucky shot.
It's rather a comment, pero primero quiero agradecer a las comunidades quechua y los representantes que están aquí por no desistir en esta resistencia que han tenido por tantos años. And I just want to mention that Plus Petrol and this decision from the NCP, I think it is really important, not only in terms of what the representative said about the Amazon, but because Plus Petrol is now turning into lithium. So Plus Petrol is now exploring and developing projects in North Argentina that are already impacting Coya communities there, and let alone that they have been exploiting Salinas Vaca Muerta region for natural gas in Argentina as well. So this should be a call for action, an urgent call for action, and to take preventative measures from the Dutch government, from the parliament, to prevent any further impacts, not only on indigenous communities, but also on environment, because Plus Petrol for sure is going to continue developing these kind of, very damaging projects. So
thank you
I hope you can consider
that remark, and that's important indeed to not only look at their past but also future activities. There was one in the front here. Yes, if you can bring it. We're going to collect the three in total and then final.
I'm going to post it in Spanish and translate myself, but it's for them. La voy a preguntar en español porque es para ustedes. Muchísimas gracias, primero que nada. Yo también vengo de México, igual que Guillermo. Y mi pregunta es, ¿cuál ha sido la respuesta de la empresa en todos estos años? ¿Han dialogado con ustedes? ¿Les han abierto la puerta? ¿Han reaccionado después de la resolución del punto nacional de contacto? Entonces, que nos cuenten un poco, porque creo que no se ha hablado tanto de la reacción de la empresa o de su rol en toda esta conversación. La voy a traducir rápido para los demás. I was just asking them about the role of the company, because we've heard a lot about the company in terms of their responsibility, but I think we've missed that piece of what has the company done in these years. Have they received the communities? Have they had any reaction since the verdict was published, etc.? So a little bit about the company.
I'm going to let them respond later, but I want one final from the back there. I'm going to bring it, and then we do the wrap-up. There were two hands here. All right.
Yes, thank you. Aside from that, there desperately need to be policy changes. What I kept thinking in this specific case is that the verdict from the national contact point would be really good grounds to start a tort case against Patrol Plus for that's the company's name. And I was just wondering, because that could be ground for financial compensation, but also to put a halt, for restorative justice. I was just wondering what steps have already been taken to bring such a liability tort case against the company, and if they're choosing not to, what.
All right. Thank you for sharing. And I think that's maybe for some or one of the companies to do follow-up with other companies through this case. All right. I want to give you room. I'm going to let them do the final response and the final words, but maybe you have a first reaction, and then we're going to go to the question that was asked to them.
I think
one was related to more the future.
I think that we have homework on two levels, apart from making sure that you have a room. But also that people can come to Parliament and make sure that their story. I don't like the word, but their experience is heard. I think we need help with questions to the Dutch government about Plus Petrol in two ways. What does this verdict mean for the letterbox policies in general of our government? And the second one is, given that Plus Petrol is now has an NCP verdict, how are they looking into the current practices of the company Given both the lithium and other and Vaca Muerta and other activities of the company, and what kind of preventary measures are the Dutch government? A third question would be, to what extent is the Dutch government actually supporting Pluspetrol? Because I have no idea. And that links to what you said, that should stop. If there's anything that's being done at the moment with Pluspetrols. But I don't know, also through the embassy in Buenos Aires, I don't know what they're doing. So that is homework for us, but we need help there. But that can happen very fast. I have questions out there in 2 days. And that is a start of a policy debate. All those questions start something. So that's my practical reaction, and my other reaction. Thanks very much to all the people that have been working on this, and continue to have the energy to keep this fight going.
Thank you.
No, thank you. I will just add some things, just to say that this is very important, because I believe that we can do something to move, to make sure that there is any movement. Even in the Netherlands, there is a province which is called Groningen, and I'm also the speaker on Groningen, where they are drilling gas, and it's causing a lot of impact there as well. And we are trying to make sure that the government is stopping with that, but it's quite hard. And even there, I did a proposal to make sure that those companies who are basically causing those issues, that we withdraw their permits, basically, even though that did not have any majority from Parliament. But these are the things we can do. We can add the same proposals that we did for the companies that are causing issues in our own province in Groningen. We can also try to see and implement it in companies such as Pluspetrol. But to do that before, we need to have the information about in which way do our government support Pluspetrol or support any other kind of organizations. And when we have all this information, we will know how to basically act. And and that's very important. And that's basically something that you just caused by coming here, by taking on this complaint. So I want to thank you very much for doing this. Thank you.
Yeah. And maybe also putting, as was said there, President, towards other companies. Then I want to give both the final words, maybe to Chino, but for the end to answer the question that was asked towards them, and then you can also give any final words that you have. And please do it here so they can see you at home because it's recorded. Mm-hmm. And if one translator can come in front as well. Or you, yeah.
Bueno, primero agradecer a los parlamentarios acá por invitarnos. Muchas gracias por invitarnos. Nada sería imposible para llegar nosotros. Y de pronto más hermanos dirigentes, porque estamos unificando más de la Amazonía con el mar. En Piura también hay pozos petroleros en el medio mar, y por eso hemos dicho, al unificarnos le hemos puesto Mar Amazonía. O sea que estamos sumando más, con más operaciones de la parte costa. Entonces, dependerá de estamos de muy lejos para llegar. Esperemos que los aliados nos ayuden para nuevamente llegar y estar presente en su invitación. Y nos gustaría para preguntarle al gobierno de este país. Luego, para responderle a la señorita acá que decía, no sé si...
So he wants to thank you again. He also wanted to share that they're also in Peru, they're thinking about strategies to how to make these a bigger case or how to connect with others. And they started a movement called Mar Amazonia, so between the sea and the Amazon, because there are also oil spills happening in Piura, so on the northern Peruvian coast, and they're connecting with fishermen communities who have been affected by oil spills to connect their struggles together across the country. And that's also an example of how they're growing the movement around corporate accountability for oil companies in Peru. And he's also thankful and saying yes to your invitation to come to Congress next time they're in the country. And they also want to help in what are the questions that you could make to the government regarding the case.
Entonces, para responderle a lo que preguntaba usted, ¿qué reacciones está dando la empresa hacia nosotros? Desde que se ha alargado la empresa de nuestro territorio, desde el año 2015, nosotros ya no tuvimos nada de reunión, aunque anteriormente varias veces hemos insistido para tener una reunión frente a frente con ellos, pero nunca se ha acercado a hablar con nosotros. Por eso es que nosotros llegamos hasta este país. Ahora, como OCDE está dando veredicto, ¿qué tipo de comportamiento tiene? Entonces ahora ellos mismos se dan cuenta, si a mí como OCDE no me obedece para que se sienten frente a frente, peor ya pues a ustedes como pueblos originarios. Entonces, esa es prácticamente una burla de nosotros que hace la empresa. Totalmente, y no es justo para nosotros, pues. Esa es la respuesta que te pudiera dar, y muchas gracias con todos los hermanos y hermanas que están acá. Si nosotros mismos no paramos, creo que de su propia voluntad nunca los gobiernos van a cambiar. Muchas gracias.
So since 2015, since the company left the territory, they had no interaction, and they've asked several times to be able to speak with them, but they never answered positively. So they had like no contact with them. And Aurelio was saying that now that we have the verdict of the OCDE and that of the OCD, OCDE, how you say it? Yeah, OECD. Thank you. That they had, that they also were able to show all the damages that the company was able to do, but also they realized how difficult it was to talk with the company too, or even to be received by the company. So Aurelio was saying if the OCD is not being like treated or received so nicely by the company, it also shows how they're treating indigenous people. He wanted to thank all of you for being here tonight, and also saying that the fight has to continue, and if we're not standing up as people, the governments will never change, and so that's what we have to do.
Thank you. All right. Then I have a few closing remarks, and then it's really closed. You can already sit. Please give a warm applause to our parliamentary speakers, but also to all the other speakers who have were part of the NGOs who've put in the work and collaborate with them, and the indigenous communities coming from Peru. Please give a final warm applause to them for all of their work. So also, maybe for those who don't know, Pakhuis de Zwijger, we are a location that are also part, let's say, of this movement of change, because you can protest on the street, you can approach the parliamentarians, but you can also approach us to have this conversation. So if the other company that you mentioned is next, please feel free to approach us, and we can facilitate this kind of conversation. So also, we are approachable to collaborate with you on this subject. So yeah, I hope with the elections coming that you vote with your heart. And one thing that Mpanzu also said that struck to me, he had been living here for 16 years without rights because he didn't have the right documents, as the Netherlands has a lot of stringent rights. So when you vote, usually the parties that don't give people rights in the Netherlands are the same parties that don't give people rights in the Amazon. So I hope that gives you guidance on what to vote. All right, thank you for this, and have a good evening.